Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we have another mod for the Elantra GTN line, and of course it is the i30N rear strut brace. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at how it installs on the car and what is required to do it. So let's first take a look at the i30N strut brace. Now there are two versions of this strut brace. This is the original version, or the one that comes factory in cars, I believe still, but this is the one that came prior to the revision. So you can see it is a nice bar with kind of a split here on the end, and of course two mounting points on either side of the car. Now the revised version is just a single bar, has the same mounting points, but is just a bar that kind of runs through the middle of the whole thing and splits out at the end, which has these little angle brackets. But I believe installation for both designs will be the exact same here on the car, but just keep that in mind that this installation is particularly for the first generation, or this bar as you can see behind me. So here in the back seat, it is a little tricky to what you need to cut the carpet. Now the i30N has a little template built in that shows you exactly what to cut. Obviously this car does not, because it was not designed for this bar. But here on the bottom side anyways, if you guys have the dual level floor, I'm not sure if this is the case in the other cars as well, there's a little plastic bar that you guys can see down there right next to the inside the carpet. You can basically use that as your lowest point to cut. Now I didn't quite get that low, but if you stick the blade in and use that as your guide to go around for your lowest point, that is exactly what is needed to install this bar. Coming up top here, it's kind of like trial and error, at least what I did. I'll go ahead and measure and tell you guys what this hole opening is. I think I needed to go up just a hair higher, so I will go ahead and measure maybe another 1/8 of an inch so and tell you guys that is the gap you guys need to cut. Now in cutting the carpet, there's a couple ways to do it, because I chose to split it down this edge here, fold this one back, and then fold this one over, so when the bar is installed, this one kind of sits on top of the bar. You could simply cut down this side, over, and fold the whole thing back in here. So it's just one piece. So if you wanted to bring it out later and then kind of just tie it up, you could. I still think this will look okay, but there's definitely different ways to do this. This is not the only way, so just keep that in mind when installing it. But anyways, when it comes to the holes available here in the body, you have this top hole from the factory, which will be used for the bar. This one is a pre-threaded hole. I believe all cars have it, so you'll use that one as your top hole on the bar. So when it comes to mounting this bottom hole, it was pretty easy if you already have the bar. You guys can go ahead and just mark it when you guys get these ones tightened in place and everything's cut out. It's pretty easy to mark it, but I will go ahead and try my best to measure and see what the dimensions are, so you guys get a rough idea what the distance is here. But overall, this is definitely easier to do if you guys cut the carpet ahead of time, have the bar in your possession, and then test fit it, and then go ahead and mark the hole and then drill it out. Now this is a M8 riv nut, so you'll need a 11mm drill bit to do this. You might be able to get away with a different size bit that's just slightly bigger, but 11mm fits the M8 riv nut perfectly, so you guys can go ahead and slide it in and it's a nice tight fit. Of course, the hardware is M8 for the factory strut bar. This bolt here actually comes from the rear trunk panel, so if you lift this floor up, there's 3 bolts on either side of the trunk floor. That is the same size as whatever that is. It might be M6. I'm not exactly sure, but I just stole 2 of the bolts from underneath the floor here on either side to go ahead and use in right here. Oh yeah, and one last thing I wanted to note is here on the driver's side, when you're doing this install, there is a wiring harness that runs here on the through the body. Now I have bolted this in, and it doesn't seem to affect the wiring harness, although it might touch it down here with the second bolt hole location. You can undo this harness and kind of just push it over to the side if you want, but overall I think it is fine where it's at, and I'm not exactly sure what this harness is for, but yeah, that is just something to note when you're cutting the carpet as well as bolting this bar in, that keep aware that there is a harness that runs on this side of the car. So here is the 2 pieces of hardware. Like I said, one comes out of the trunk, this smaller one, and the other one is an M8 with built-in washer and lock washer, everything like that. But that is really all there is to it for installing this bar on the car. That rhymed. But anyways, yeah, it's just kind of trial and error. Now, in terms of what the performance enhancements will be for this car, according to Hyundai, on the i30N overseas, this bar, just simply bolting it in and adding it, will add 9% stiffness to the body. Now, here on the Elantra GTN line, I'm not sure what the differences are in terms of manufacturing between the i30N and this car, if any other braces or materials are used to already stiffen up the i30N over this car. But I would assume that at minimum, this bar will provide a 9% increase in body stiffness. It could be more if by chance it's not as stiff as the i30N already is from the factory, so this bar might enhance it even further over that 9%, but that is at least the minimum according to what Hyundai says this bar provides on the i30N. Now, I've had it installed for a couple of days fully with all 4 bolts, and I have to say that I think I noticed a difference while driving this car, that it seems to stiffen up the body quite a bit. The N line is already pretty bouncy in terms of the suspension overall than the Sports. So is it a placebo? I don't think so, but I definitely think you can tell a difference when this bar is installed in the car. So I'm gonna go ahead and bolt this bar back in. It takes about 5 minutes to unbolt and bolt it in. Depending on how much and how well you cut the carpet will determine kind of how easily it slides into place. Mine is pretty tight because I didn't cut the carpet probably fully. I might address that later, but overall it fits in there fine. It takes about 5 minutes to bolt it or unbolt it. Does it get in the way? I'll let you guys decide, but I think it's pretty out of the way and unobtrusive in terms of the storage in this car. And it also acts as a divider, so when you have the rear seats folded down, it kind of acts as a divider. So if you have something sitting on the seat backs, it doesn't slide back into the trunk area and vice versa. Okay, so here's what the strut bar looks fully bolted in. As you can see, I have the carpet here, the flap that goes over it. And you can see that the carpet does not fit perfectly. That's also because there's no indentation like the i30N does. But I think if you cut some relief cuts, it'll fit fine because the bottom fits fine. It's just this top one right here is a little bulging. So I think if I did a relief cut here, something like that, it would definitely look better. This side's not nearly as bad, but it is bulged just a little bit. But yeah, that's what it looks like fully bolted in. Take a look on the back side. Yeah, it looks super good. It looks super aggressive. As you can see, it sits really low next to the floor. Everything with the dual level floor still works. The seat backs, something that is kind of an added bonus here. When you fold up the seat, it does contact this little extra flap here. So when you put the seat back up, it clips in place, everything's fine, but it is nice and tight and taut against that rear section there. So sometimes with these cars, it's kind of like a known issue that this mechanism, this latch for the seat back, will actually rattle sometimes. So this actually will eliminate that fact because it presses against the seat back and keeps everything nice and taut with a little bit of tension. So you kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone in this one. But here's that mechanism. Sometimes the latch will kind of loosen up over time and it will kind of rattle back and forth just a little bit when you're going over bumps or anything like that. So this kind of eliminates that fact. Again, when you push it back, sometimes a little bit of nice snug, but everything fits perfectly. It looks super aggressive there against the back seats. When you open up the hatch and you just glance inside, it looks super mean. And like I said, it actually probably stiffens up the body quite a bit. So I think this is a super cool mod. It's not too difficult to do here on the regular Elantra GT or N lines. But yeah, looks super cool. And again, the differences between that second generation is that the bar would just sit up another inch or 2 higher and go right to the middle of the 4 points right there. So wouldn't sit quite as low, but I think this one looks actually a lot better anyway. So if you guys have any comments or questions, leave them down in the comment section below and I'll do my best to answer them. If you guys enjoyed and liked this video, please hit that like button. It helps the video out tremendously. The more interaction overall it gets, the more YouTube might push it out to other audiences. And if you guys are new to my channel, make sure to check out other videos on the Elantra GTN line, both mods and ownership experience. And with all that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video.